Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, we've got a couple of champion buffs coming through. I know what you're thinking. Is it those two epics that I really want to use more? Is it maybe one of the legendaries that we all get to see? Unfortunately not. It is a legendary and it is a mythical, but we're going to go through the details of those and see what they've changed into. Before I do it, something which is very close to me. We're actually doing a push for mental health between HH Gaming and Fateless. It's going to be a kind of like, we're calling it the Fateless side quest here. Basically move more in October, feel amazing, and support Safe in Our World, which is a mental health charity specifically for gaming. I've seen a number of different people messaging since we've kind of started talking about this, about their own experiences and how they've had challenges either with loved ones or themselves. So we're doing something called Race at Your Pace. So anyone can sign up today, come and join a team or create your own team. It could even be your whole family getting involved, doesn't matter. And come and see how you're doing against the leaderboard here. I'm part of the Buzzing Bees, and basically we are going to be going up against the BS Clan and ELT at the moment. But you can also just come in as a solo runner, if you like, and get involved. What you do is you set yourself a target of how much you want to move through different activities in October, and then you try and push yourself to get out of that chair and touch some grass and actually move for charity, which I think is great. Just talking on Raid quickly, I struggled very early on playing this game with that kind of I want the next thing mentality, right? And this type of game does that to you, especially if you're trying to be competitive or you're really trying to like push numbers in PvE or PvP. And you can end up, and it is a mental health thing, by the way. You can end up sort of spending outside of your means. That can then lead to, like frustrations with your family or loved ones, or you might just feel really like this intense guilt. I've been there. It's happened to me. It's an intense feeling as well, because in the moment you're like, oh, just get one more pack so I can try and get this thing that I'm trying to chase. For me, actually, the worst case of it was when Trisk first came out, and I couldn't even tell you how many Sacred Shards I bought in that weekend without getting a Trisk. Void Shards it would have been. Anyway, it was brutal, and the bank balance didn't favor me, and then I felt this intense guilt because I shouldn't have been spending that money. It definitely hits us in different ways. So I would definitely say, look, if you can get involved, please get involved. The thing that we're doing here is literally $20 or £20 to get in the mix. If you can select to get a medal at the end of it as well. And, we're all just kind of like coming together here to try and support a great charity. And if you don't want to be involved in the movement side of things, you could just make a donation as well. I'll put all these links down below. Love for you guys to get involved. Okay, then let's talk about two champion buffs. I mean, it's always difficult, right? Because if you've got a mythical, you really feel like a mythical should be insane. And most of them are pretty insane. So if you don't have a great one, it feels bad. But I really just wish that Raid would do more than 2 buffs a month. And I wish there was at least a couple of epics, couple of normal legendaries, a void legendary, and a mythical. Like, just broaden the number of buffs, because the game now has got so many champs. We're talking basically 1,000, I think, at this point, champs. And, it just feels like there should be more of this going on. Anyway, let's talk about the first one here, who is Togron the Conjoined. He's a void legendary from the Ogden tribes, support champ. So let's see what's going on. He definitely is a lackluster champ, actually. I think I've got a +1 in fact, and I never ever use him. Is he in the vault? Oh, maybe I don't have this guy. It's not the one I was thinking. Okay, I don't have this one at all. My bad. That's probably why I never use him. Anyway, what's going on with this guy? So Mash and Mangle originally attacks an enemy, 20% chance of applying a buff spread, and taking one random buff from each ally and place it on all allies. So this is pretty unique in the game, but low chance, I guess. We've then got it move into, and let me just see, because it doesn't give us all the information there. We'll just see if that actually powers up with books as well. Yeah, it does. Yeah, so it goes to like 30, 40, 50, right? So it would be a 50% chance and they're moving it to a base of 70, which would actually go to a 100% chance. Good change, actually. So you're applying a buff spread, you're moving one buff from an ally and placing it on all allies. Good change. So for the second skill here, heals all allies. This is what it was originally. Heals all allies by 20% of this champ's max HP. Places increased speed. Also places a continuous heal for 2 turns on anyone whose HP is low after the initial heal. So change here is still the same heal, still the same speed. Places the heal and block debuffs for 2 turns with like no conditions. Honestly, way better. The block debuffs plus speed plus a heal plus continuous heals. That makes that skill honestly really good. So again, really good change. I like that. For the A3 then, Brothers Generosity. So originally increases turn meter, puts increased accuracy on, and then removes all debuffs. Weird order, honestly. Weird order, because if someone's got block buffs, it completely negates the increased accuracy because of the order. So they're changing it nicely to for the cleanse to go first, right? So no no weirdness to the skill. Cleanse goes first, then we get a turn meter fill plus an additional 2% for any debuff cleansed, which is interesting actually. I wonder if that's per champ. So if I'm cleansing 5 debuffs from one champ, that would be 10%. If I'm gaining 2% for each debuff removed in general, let's say everyone had 5, you're getting like 20 debuffs worth of turn meter. That could end up being like 40% or something. Is that right? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how they've coded it, but either way, good change. Then you get your increased accuracy. So again, the order is better. The little tweak is nice. Again, feels like a good change actually. And then finally for the passive here. So this passive increases this champion's max HP every time they use an active skill. So the A2 or A3 up to 50%, resets each round. So when you go from one wave to the next wave, it would be a reset. If you was in the arena, there's only ever one round, so it would always be stacking, but only for this champ. Also increases each ally's HP by 5% each time they use an active skill up to 50. Again, resets each round. Will not increase the max HP of bosses, right? So the change here is increases allies' damage dealt by 10% if they have less than half HP. Sorry, no, if they currently have less HP than their target. Sorry, HP than their target, which must be as a percentage, I guess. So if you've been hit at all and the enemy hasn't, you're going to do 10% more damage. If an ally's HP is equal to or greater than their target, you get a 20% increase. So if you're going first, you're definitely going to have 100% HP. Therefore, you get a 20% damage increase. This change alone makes this champ now really good for Hydra, actually. Increased speed, block debuffs, heals, buff spreading, cleansing, turn meter push, increase accuracy, 20% more damage if you're full health. Like, pretty solid, actually. That's the 20% damage is massive, honestly. Increases his champions and each ally's max HP by 10% every time this champion uses an active skill up to 50. So now it's kind of like equaling the max HP gain for Togron here. Also increases each ally's max HP for 5% each time they use an active skill. So suddenly your team can get 2 stacks, I think it's 2 stacks of 50%, the way that reads. So if you've got 100k HP and you get a 50% stack, obviously goes to 150k. If you get another 50% stack on top of that, it's 50% of the 150, so that's like 225k. So if you've got an HP damage dealer, that's like significant, especially if they're doing 20% more damage as well. Interesting. Okay, that kit change I think is honestly really solid change. I wish that was the one I had multiple copies of, but it was not. Okay, let's check out which of the mythicals we've got then. So it is Fjorad Wolfheart. Do not have this mythical myself. It's the dwarf. Let's just go a bit bigger. Oh, not that big. Okay, so it's the dwarf here. Let's have a look at what's going on. For the A1 skill, it was a double attack, So double hitter, each hit 50% chance of placing freeze. If the target's not under freeze, we'll repeat the attack again, which was kind of like a nice ice, not ice golem, fire knight ability, right? But 50% still kind of low. We've got here changing to same skill, but the debuff cannot be blocked, or resisted if the target champion is from Gale Impact. Oh, okay. Okay. We've then got the second skill. It's an AoE skill, places freeze on all enemies for a turn, and a 30% decreased speed on all enemies. If an enemy's from Gale Impact, places freeze on them for 2 turns, and then you go again. So the change here is it cannot be blocked or resisted. I guess that's pretty important. Like block debuffs is not. Block debuffs is not going to help you here. Resistance is not going to help you here. So it is significant, but again, it's only this Gale Impact, which if you're wondering what that means, each of the different factions is in a pack. So that's only affecting Ogden tribes, lizardmen, skinwalkers, and orcs, which clearly is not bosses and stuff as well. So it's a little bit, yeah, I mean, you almost need to remove that clause and then suddenly this skill becomes great. We've got here as well, also decreases the turn meter of the target. If the enemy is from Gale Impact, decreases their turn meter by 50%. And then for the passive here, whenever this champion receives a debuff from an enemy, 30% chance of placing a freeze on that target, occurs once a turn. This is 100% if it's from Gale Impact. And it changes here. Whenever this champion or an ally receives a debuff from an enemy, 30% chance to freeze them. So it's a bit like what we get from our other dwarf, Tormund, with that sort of freeze ability when other stuff is going off, which is actually pretty cool. So, and that's when anybody on your team is receiving a debuff, 30% chance to happen. It's 100%, and the debuff cannot be blocked or resisted, again, if it's Gale Impact. He's getting more speed as well, actually. He's getting an extra 5 speed. Good changes, but again, I think the Gale Impact thing is just so... It just like holds him back so much, and it means that none of this stuff is boss relevant. So it's like niche picks for PvP, basically. And just thinking about that even. So Gale Impact, have we got the big hitters from PvP in here? I'm just trying to think from them. I don't own, obviously, all the mythicals, and I don't know the answer. Laz is, I guess Lizardmen are pretty damn strong. Gizmak can be strong, puts a bunch of debuffs on you. I don't know. I don't feel like Gale Impact is the one that people are looking out for, but I could be wrong on that. Okay, let's have a look at the second form. So we've got, and it's an HP-based dude. Before, if this attack kills an enemy, resets the cooldown of one of this champion's skills. And then we're adding into that, we'll ignore 15% defense. And if they're under a freeze, we'll ignore 35% defense, which is significant. Again, that's a big change, especially if you can get one of your skills back from doing that. We've got the A2. So it's an AoE hit, places an extra hit on enemies with freeze or any other like control. Each hit decreases the target's max HP by 25%, and it stacks up to 50%. Each hit also decreases the target's turn meter by 25%. Cannot be resisted if enemies are under crowd control. So the change here is he's just had more damage, which is interesting. Let me just have a quick look here on hellhades.com. See what his damage multipliers are looking like anyway. So let me just check here. First form, strong, but that's not really what we care about. Let's check his second form. Average. So his second form, damage was already legendary. This is based on him getting the second hit, basically. So pushing the damage up could be interesting if he goes into that godlike level. He's getting a damage increase on this skill as well, which already hit hard, actually, which is ignore defense ability. Let's just go and check out this one. So damage increase here could be interesting. We've got Disciple of Tormund for his third skill. We'll ignore 50% defense. If the target is under freeze, we'll ignore 100% defense. If the target is killed while under freeze, also places block revive. So the change here is still ignoring 50% defense. If the target is under a freeze, we'll ignore 100% defense and we'll ignore block damage. Again, pretty significant. If the target is killed while under freeze, will block revive them, and places a freeze on all enemies. And this still hits hard already. We just seen that. That's pretty cool, actually. And then finally, the freeze cannot be blocked or resisted by enemies under Gale Impact. And he's getting that damage increase. So the second form feels like it's getting a lot more love, and it's decent. We've then got the passive change. So currently, counterattacks with Rhyme Cleave, which is his A1. Whenever an enemy increases the cooldown of any of this champion's skills. The change here is whenever an ally is killed, has a 50% chance of placing freeze on all enemies for 1 turn, and it's 100% against Gale Impact. I'm a bit torn on this one. I feel like the changes are generally all good. Okay, there's no bad change there. I don't own him, so I don't really know how effective he was being before. They've obviously doubled down on the freeze. They've doubled down in this instance on trying to make him actually a damage dealer as well, like a threat rather than just a crowd control. It's still very heavily focused on this group, which I don't know how relevant they really are in the PvP scene, mainly because I'm not really in the PvP scene. But I'd love to know, if you are a heavy PvPer, you know, is this the faction that, I guess the Lizards maybe are. Are the other factions ones that you care about? Is it ones that you really want to be, you know, locking them down? But I guess, look, 2 buffs, both feel like they're well thought through. So that's decent. I wish there were more buffs. I wish there was more to talk about in this. And please do get involved in Race at Your Pace. I've been Hell Hades. I'll see you soon.